Happy Cinco de Mayo. This week we're going to be learning to make these miniature piñatas, a traditional Mexican craft with a surprise inside. Okay everybody, today I'm going to be teaching you how to make these little pencil piñatas in honor of Cinco de Mayo. Piñatas are a traditional Mexican craft that you fill with candy, and we have a spot right in there that we can fill it with candy. So you are going to need a paper towel roll, white, yellow, and pink paper. So that is actually what we're going to start with. So I have my construction paper right here. And the first thing I'm going to do is, and by the way, this is 12 by 18 construction paper. If you have the smaller size, 9 by 12, that does not matter at all. You can use that as well. So I'm going to hold my paper, all three colors together, and I'm going to cut strips. So all my papers are together, so I'm actually cutting one of each color right now. So that is probably going to be enough white, 2 white strips, 2 pink strips. I am going to need yellow. As you can see, the biggest color, the biggest part of our piñata is yellow. So I'm going to go ahead and cut 2 or 3 more yellow strips. One, 2, 3. The next thing that I'm going to do is add a little texture to each of these strips, okay? You can do them one at a time, or I like to hold 2 at a time together and do 2 at a time. And what I'm going to do is I am going to cut little edges, fringe, on each of these strips. You want to make sure that you're only cutting about halfway down the strip, because you don't want to cut the strip in half. You just want to make those little feathered edges that are really traditional for a piñata. Now actually, piñatas are traditionally made not with paper, but they are made with tissue. But I decided to do actual regular construction paper for this project because I don't think a lot of people have tissue paper at home. If you do have tissue paper at home, you're going to do the exact same process with the tissue paper. You're going to cut it into strips, and then you're going to cut little slits along the edges to get that feathered look. Right now, this paper still looks pretty flat. So to add a little texture, I am going to take a pencil, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap those fringed edges around the pencil, and I kind of like to just roll my pencil back and forth a little bit, and that just gives that paper a little bit of texture. So I'm going to go across my whole strip, and you do not have to get every piece. You just want to make it look like they're not completely flat. So you can see some of the pieces are very curled, some are not really curled at all. That's totally fine, as long as you have some movement going on throughout the whole strip. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to cut and curl all of my strips, and then I'm going to come back to you. Now I have all of my paper strips with the little slits in them and curled. But we have one piece that is going to be made out of foil, okay? The silver part of our pencil, which is at the bottom of our eraser, we're going to be making out of foil. So I'm just going to take a sheet of foil. I didn't even measure it. It's about a little smaller than the large piece of construction paper. Now this foil is very thin, so we're going to fold it a few times to make it a little bit thicker to ensure that when we cut the slits in it, it doesn't rip. So I'm going to fold it once, push it down. I am going to fold it again in half, push it down, and again in half, and going to even do it one more time. If it's too hard for you to fold it in half one more time, you can just leave it as it is. So now this foil is about the same thickness as one of those paper strips. And now I'm going to take my scissors, and just like I did with the paper strips, I'm going to cut the foil. And you'll see that you don't really need to bend this around a pencil. This is a lot easier to just move with your fingers once it's wrapped around the paper towel roll. Another thing to make a note of, we are going to be using glue to stick down our paper, but the foil does not like to stick very well with glue. So when you see me attach the foil, you're actually going to see me use tape for that part, okay? So all the paper parts are going to be glued together, but this foil, I'm actually going to use a little bit of tape on one end. So this piñata is in a cylinder shape. It just follows, the papers just get wrapped around our paper towel roll, except at the front. We need to make that pointy part of our pencil, and that is actually the hardest part to do. So you might want a parent's help. It's gonna take a few tries, and we're gonna be using tape for this as well. So what you are going to do is you are going to take a piece of white paper. This is actually just the leftover white paper that I had from cutting my strips. And I'm gonna cut a triangle. This triangle was, if you have like a normal size piece of construction paper, 9x12, it's probably a little smaller than half, okay? I'm gonna hold the triangle so the flat part is up and the pointed part is down. I am gonna take, actually, before you do it, a good idea is to take some pieces of tape, pre-cut them. I am just gonna pre-cut about 4 pieces of tape. I know that you guys can't see it, but I'm sticking it to the side of the table so that I can access that tape very easy later on. I'm gonna take this corner and I'm going to roll it under. And you can see I have a point up there. Now, I'm gonna put my fingers down, so I'm holding the back so it stays in place. If you need to switch hands, just keep it closed. And then I'm gonna wrap this part on top. And I'm just gonna wrap it and kind of adjust it until I get some sort of cone shape. Now, the paper does not, it's not even, okay? There's a shorter piece up here, a longer piece down here. That doesn't matter. What does matter is that you tape it really well. So once I put one piece of tape, I can let go. Nothing's gonna fall apart. So I'm gonna tape this on the seam. That's that crack there, that edge, all the way down to the bottom. So now I have the tip to my pencil and I have the base of my pencil, but the tip is way too big for the base of the pencil. So we're gonna have to cut it. Once again, I'm gonna have a few pieces of tape at the edge of my desk because we're gonna be using a lot of tape to connect it. So right now I'm just ripping 5 pieces. They're stuck to the edge of my desk, so when I need it, I can get it. So I know that this goes in about halfway through the cone. So I need to cut off about half of this. So I'm gonna just squeeze it with my hands to flatten it. And I'm gonna go cut it at that edge. And now it should stay together because we already taped it. So now I'm gonna see, I think it's still just a tiny bit too big. So I'm just gonna cut off a little tiny bit more. And now it's about the same size. So that looks good to me. So I'm just gonna hold it right on top there and I'm gonna start taping all around. It's not going to be a perfect fit. Just get it as even as you can, but you really wanna make sure it's secure. So I would recommend using like 5. Now that the little cone paper tip of my pencil is secure, I used 5 pieces of tape. We are going to start to wrap our piñata. So I'm gonna start with the end of my piñata, which is going to be the eraser. So I'm gonna take a first piece of my pink paper. Now you see how this side, the little, I'm calling them teeth, are bending towards me. I want them to actually be backwards. This part doesn't really matter if you get it confused. And what I'm gonna do is I am gonna put glue at the bottom of the strip, not where there's little pieces, but where the paper is solid. And now I'm gonna take this the paper towel roll, and towards the top, doesn't have to be all the way at the exact top, I am gonna start to slowly wrap my pink paper. And this, you wanna go slow to make sure it's sticking well, is going to be my eraser. So I did the first piece, and I have one more pink piece. I actually don't think I'm gonna even need this much, so I'm just gonna rip it. So I have a little bit more than half left. Go put the glue on the bottom. And I think liquid glue is actually gonna work a little bit better than a glue stick for this project. So I'm just gonna go back to wherever I left off. I'm gonna start gluing on the rest of my pink paper. And once I get to the edge of that, I'm just gonna, I always tell my students in class, count to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, just to make sure that liquid glue is stuck. So now I have my the top of my eraser. If there are any parts like here, this looks a little flat to me, you can just take your fingers and kind of peel some of those paper strips back to give it a little bit more texture. Yeah, here it needs a little bit, but overall looks pretty good. So now it is going to be time for the bottom of our eraser, which has that metallic look. So I said before that this is not going to stick with glue. So I'm going to get a few pieces of tape ready, stuck to the edge of my desk. And I'm gonna start with one, and I'm just gonna start right where I left off. And for this, I'm gonna put the tape, I'm gonna attach it with tape. And then I'm just gonna continue what I was doing before, wrapping it. Kind of looks like a flower at this point, wrapping it. And they're overlapping. I'm not going all the way underneath it. I'm going over the edge that I started with. Wrapping, wrapping, wrapping. And now that I am done with that, I'm going to take the tape that I have on my desk. And just to be secure, I'm going to take one more long piece of tape and tape it. Give that a good squeeze. So now we have the eraser, the top of the eraser, the rubber part, and the metal part that secures it. So now we are going to go ahead and do the bulk of our wrapping, which is our yellow paper. And we are going to do the yellow, and we are going to wrap it until we get to the bottom, until we get to the bottom of the paper towel roll, right when we hit the cone. So watch me wrap. So now I have finished using my yellow paper to wrap, and I am down to that cone shape, which is the pencil point. So the first thing I'm going to do is with a black marker or any color dark marker, I'm going to color the tip of that paper, and that is going to be the lead, or actually the graphite in our pencil. Sorry, I keep moving this out of the camera. It's hard to manage both. So I'm going to color the tip of that black. It doesn't have to be a perfectly even line because it is going to get covered up with our white trimmed paper. So there we go, got a decent amount on there, which by the way, if you don't even want to do the white, you could be done with it just like that. That looks pretty good to me. But I am going to go ahead and do the white. So I'm going to take one of my white strips. I'm going to put the glue on the bottom just like I have been doing for all the other colors. And I am going to take my white paper and I'm going to glue it just below where I was working with the yellow. Hold it in place for 10 seconds to make sure it's attached. And then I'm just going to start wrapping it around. Now this is on an angle, so it's a little bit harder to wrap, but it is still pretty simple. And you know what? This piece I have is actually too long. I don't even need all that, so I'm just going to rip some of it off. And then I'm just going to keep wrapping. Make sure that glue is stuck. So now I have the bonnet part wrapped. And my piñata is almost done. Now, if you're not going to actually use it as a piñata, it's just going to be decoration, your piñata is done. If you are going to use it as a piñata and you want to hang it somewhere, we're going to make a little handle for it. So I'm going to take a piece of paper. You can use any color. I'm just going to use pink because I have that left. And before you do this part, you're going to want to stick a few candies in there in that paper towel roll. But I am going to take 2 pieces of tape, stick them on the side of my desk, paper, a little tape, and I'm just going to stick that inside my paper towel roll. And now I'm going to flip it like this, put the other side inside the paper towel roll. You might want to put the, you know what, sometimes it's easier to put the tape on it before you stick it into the paper towel roll. So that's actually what I'm going to do. And now I'm going to stick it back in there and I'm just going to use my fingers to rub it to the side. And now our little handle is attached and you could hang it for a tree, or just hang it somewhere in your bedroom. And that is your Cinco de Mayo mini piñata. I hope you enjoyed following along and I would love to see if you guys make some at home. Good luck.